I will now introduce my panel, invite them to the stage. I see Necla already in the front. So this panel has Necla Çolak from the Turkish Mercantile Exchange. I have known Necla for a long time because I used to work with the stock exchanges. Seçil Demir from İş Bankası. Pınar Özcan from Oxford. And we have Meryem Torshizi from Deep Search Labs. So we'll have the time start again. Now, thank you very much for being here. Maybe I will sit down. Yes. So we have, actually, so that's true. Necla, Seçil, so I'm taking yoklama, you know. We have Meryem, no? So Pınar Özcan is missing, I think. Okay. Well, every individual is unique. Nonetheless, at least I can say that I can speak on behalf of the banking sector. No, I will not say that because I'm the moderator, but I do hope that so if she's in the building, she will come. Obviously, İş Bankası is an important member of the Turkish Bankers Association, which is a member of the EBF. So in this panel, we're going to talk about 3 topics very quickly. Let me already lay them out for you, and we'll pick them up one by one. So one is women leaders in fintech, what they bring to innovation. Second is financial inclusion and what fintech can do for this and how to advance it. And then we will come to a little bit the topic that we had in the second panel, which is mentoring and networking. So let's start with the first one. You are all women leaders in fintech, or you're working with leaders. So what do you think, what unique perspectives or approaches do women bring to fintech, and how can we get the most value out of this contribution? Let's start with my left, Necla.
Is it working? Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, thank you very much. It's my honor to be here representing Turkish Mercantile Exchange. We are a very young exchange, in fact, compared to our peers in US or in other countries. We are going to be 5 years old this year in July 2024. But I had a long background, 3 decades background in the exchange business, and we had the chance to work together in the FESE when you are at the Federation of European Exchanges. Similar business, but different environment, different product. In fact, what I'm doing here at the moment, I was at the foundation stage, joined Turkish Mercantile Exchange. And here, in fact, when we talk about women, we are talking about agricultural sector and agricultural fintech services we are providing. They're here both in the sector specific and also in the fintech specific. Women are, of course, underrepresented as many sectors. But we are lucky in Turkish Mercantile Exchange for the workforce, 53% is represented by the women. Compared to agricultural sector, although it is 43% labor forces in the agriculture, when you look at their land or livestock holding or having on the decision process, they are not represented or having these kind of opportunities. What we are trying to do, in fact, with fintech solutions in the agriculture, we are trying to provide a fair, equal access to financial market. Technology helps women to join the process and easily access to financing or doing their businesses. There, as Turkish Mercantile Exchange, we are also trying to fill the gap, let's say, or mind the gap in favor of not just women, but all agricultural sector producers and participants, let's say. When I look at what we are bringing as women to the sector, you know, resilience, multitasking, and empathy is important features of women. And exchange business and doing this kind of services, which is heavily regulated, these are very important features. Exchange business is very repetitive. Every day you are opening a market, and every day you are closing it. Next day it's again you are doing the same business. That's why it's patience is required, and no one should be left. And for the sake of the customer needs and requirements, you should be high regards to what your clients are looking for. That's why patience, resilience, and multitasking are. Excuse me.
I'm just now understanding that you are Seçil. Yes. Okay. Sorry. It shows that perspective is important.
Is here. Then.
and I'm sorry, Necla, but it's very kind of you not to have corrected me when I claimed that you weren't here. So it's very polite of you. Thank you. That's noted. So, okay. And thank you for joining us. So please finish your point.
One another aspect of women, I guess, feature maybe. We are very collaborative in this kind of.
Yes, exactly. A big solidarity there. She's making your point for you. Yes.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned in Turkish Mercantile Exchange, as a fintech providing services to agricultural sector, we are trying to be respectful for the clients' requirements and needs. You can easily establish a platform and put a commodity there and make people speculate on that product. But our major goal is not that. Since we are on the food sector and it in the food values chain, we should be respectful to the needs of these products, those who are in need of these products. That's why we are designing product, looking at details and needs and requirements of the sector. There maybe is another. We are not that greedy. I mean, in the fintech sector, that I should also. I don't know whether this is a women feature, but when I look at the vibrant environment here outside, the men's are very dominant again here. More.
Yes, here I noticed that. Yes.
When I look at here, if there's some 50-50 maybe women and men, but when you look at the fintech business, it's highly dominant by the men, and they are trying to find an easy way to design a product, sell a product, and or this and that. We are a little bit more different from, as a fintech, different from that sector, because we are working for agricultural service, and it is the food or product that are consumed in a season by human beings or animals or some others. That's why we are not digitalizing commodities in a high level. I mean, when you think about wheat, wheat can be a price. What kind of wheat is that? Is it for bread, or is it for pasta, or is it for breeding, or others? That's why when you are investing or when you are designing product, you should think about these details. That I try to mention. Yes. That we are not greedy about making money from speculation and this and that. We are thinking about what kind of product wheat they are looking for. That's why we are designing these products. We are not putting wheat on the table, but we are putting gradients of these products. There, I think women are there. I'm responsible for market operations and business developments. That's why maybe I add value there, I believe.
No doubt.
Thank you. At the moment, these I think I can mention.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I think, so you talked about actually both of the first two questions that I had. So maybe let's do it in the same way. So the questions were, women leaders in fintech, what are they bringing into innovation, and also what that role can do for financial inclusion. So let's take those two things together and put the weight as you want on either. Let's go to you, Seçil. Yes.
Hi everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with you. I want to start with İş Bank's approach in terms of women, and I want to take into account from the 2 point of views. One is female employees. İş Bank has more than 21,000 employees, and 53% of these are female, like you in the mercantile. And 40% of these are in managerial positions. When I checked from the Turkish Statistical Institute website, I saw that in Turkey, women make up of 20% in the managerial positions. In that sense, I feel lucky to work in such a workplace. And we aim to, in 2 years, we aim to increase the percentage of women in the board of directors, at least 30% in 2 years' time. These are our employee approach. And secondly, I want to briefly mention about the women in startup ecosystem. Arya Venture Capital Investment Fund was founded in 2022, and İş Bank committed $5 million here, and now it's like $2.4 million given to the women startup part.
In all sectors, right?
Yeah.
Startups covering all sectors.
Startups, and co-founders are women in 10 of these took $2.4 million. And when we come to the answer of the question, I believe that, as Necla Hanım said, empathy is the first thing, I think, in the first place to be mentioned about, because with empathy women bring, products become, I think, more user-friendly, and with that, products are accessed by vast majority. Secondly, the leadership style of women, I think, is more collaborative. Women give importance to the diversity in their team, and the diversified teams, I think, bring diversified customers. And third one is, I can say, the problem-solving skills of women is, I think, very meticulous. Women solve the problems very meticulously, I think. And risk evaluations always exist in our mind throughout all the processes, and this makes, I think, products more sustainable and stable. In terms of second question, I'm passing to the second one.
Yes.
I can mention about 6 strategies. First one, as I mentioned, is diversified teams is crucial in the strategy to make access to the products, and include diversified teams in the decision-making processes. Secondly, customer experience is very important. In all our processes, we give importance to excellent customer experience. And thirdly, we always get feedback from our customers, and with those feedbacks, we continuously develop the products. The other thing is, I think, hyper-personalization. Everyone wants service for himself, so we are always working on these. And for our case, it's important to make partnerships with fintechs. This also increases the accessibility. And lastly, let's say these are the affordability, of course. The affordability of the products is last but not least, let's say.
Yeah, in terms of financial inclusion, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Listening to you made me think of two things. First of all, teams that are balanced and rich indeed do require both of the genders. I think true, and sometimes the lack of diversity can go in the other direction too. So in times when I have ended up hiring too many women in my small team, I've also noticed that somehow there are not enough checks and balances, because it's true that even as a feminist, we can recognize that men and women may think differently on average, with lots of outliers, or simply women and men come from different backgrounds, which may then lead to different questions they raise, that sort of thing. And if you actually go in the direction, if you are not proportionate in either direction, it undermines the quality of the thinking of that team. Well, that's only one thing that I wanted to say. No, sorry. Yes, sorry. There was a report, I think from Oliver Wyman a couple of years ago, that put a number to the business that a bank loses if it doesn't do the things that you're talking about. Because then you lose client segments. And so, for instance, it quoted some CFOs, so chief financial officers, who were women, working on behalf of companies, and they were describing, going to a bank or the bank team coming to their offices, and everyone being a man, and they were put off. Even if the men were actually really very nice and welcoming, it was just not the right image. So, and that kind of destroyed the relationship from the beginning. So I think you are on the right track, if I may say so. So let's go to Mariam, as we would say in Turkish. So what's your perspective on these two questions? What the women leaders bring to the to the fintech sector in particular, and also what they can do, especially for financial inclusion?
So I don't know if you guys can hear me. Yep. So my background, my company is a Gen AI company. So we are deep tech. And I have, actually when we first started, there were only 2 women in the company and the rest were men.
How many were the rest?
We were 8 people when we started, and that's 2 women and then the rest were men.
Okay.
So not that great. And I tell you why. I run on meritocracy. So I don't care whether you are a man or a woman when I interview you. I want the best for the job. And I need you to be the best for the job in order to deliver products very quickly, because I lack resources, unlike corporates. And for that, I emphasize on merits. And it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing at the same time, because women and men actually don't function the same way. Men tackle questions that I set them, even if they don't know the answer. Women take their time, and then they know the answer, but they know only like 10% they don't know. They won't submit, right? Mm-hmm. So the difference is actually societal, right, when it comes to men and women differences. And I learned that, but I stuck to my rule, which was everybody needs to sit the same test. Now, the women who have now joined the company, we are 4, again, less than men. They are all achievers. They are creative. They push the boundaries. They're not scared of debating with men, which is really important. But women have got a higher pain threshold, right? But they're more sensitive. So when it comes to like delivering, I would never directly tell a woman that you've done a terrible job, but I would tell a man directly that you've done a terrible job. Because a woman does not want to be embarrassed in front of anybody, right? So it's a cultural thing, it's a societal thing. So with women, I say, you've done a great job, but maybe we could change this and that, right? But with men, I say, that was terrible. Like, we need to redo this. So it's totally different behavior towards women and men. And then the other thing with women is that even though we are not looked at systematically. We are actually extremely systematic when we tackle a problem. When I want something done properly, I give it to a woman, because I know that woman would be very thorough. They would go through every angle. They would see where it's missing, what they need to do. Women have got a longer perspective of problems. They would look at it in a longer distance, whereas like men look at it in short term. So the difference is, if I want a long-term project running, I give it to a woman to design, to do analysis, many other things. But if I want something fast done and super quick, it's always to men, because they deliver quickly. So the differences between men and women, there are differences, and it's ridiculous to say no, there aren't any differences. And the difference is societal, is how we are raised. A man hears no from a very young age. A woman would never hear no, even from your parents. You will always be praised. Your dad, you will be your dad's princess. So you will expect the same behavior when you join society. But a man would hear no from a very young age, from men, from women, from their family, from everybody. So that creates resilience. And I think women, unlike what you mentioned, I don't think we have enough resilience to tackle and to have that drive, the same drive that a man has. And that shows through tests that we are doing. So the scientific test that we set, a woman doesn't tackle it, but a man tackles it because of that resilience, because we don't believe in ourselves. Now, from a financial inclusion, I would say that including more women in tech is really important, but upskilling women is more important than inclusion. Because a woman needs to have the same skill set as a man when they're entering any market. And if you don't have the same skill set, you need to spend time upskilling them if you want diversity. And that means that the men you are hiring as in managerial positions need to have the same mentality. That upskilling and research is very important. And that's the only way you can include women in growth and financial inclusion. Would only include women if everybody's willing to upskill women that don't have the skill sets. So thank you.
Thank you. Before you take over, Pınar, I just want to offer one thought about what you said. What are the differences between men and women? And in this panel, in this summit right now, we don't have the time to go into it in greater depth. I think it is a very interesting topic, and my perspective is that it's a fine line to walk between making assumptions about average characteristics or capabilities or tendencies, and then glossing over differences and not being sensitive enough. So on the one hand, if you're making assumptions about a person based on their gender and other characteristics before you even know them, you're actually being biased. On the other hand, if you're not looking closely at who they are as a client, as a shareholder, as a manager, as an employee, then you're not being sensitive and inclusive. So it's a deeper topic that in this panel we can't get into, but I do take your points about certain important consequences of upbringing. And the other thing I would add is that there's an excellent unconscious bias survey. I don't know if you've seen that Harvard does online. And I encourage you all to look at that, because the whole area of unconscious bias is one of the aspects of culture in gender equality. And one of the tools any individual or an organization can use as a starting point is to do that test. And then you can discover whether, unbeknownst to you, you actually have that bias. So, for instance, I've done it, and on gender equality, I did not fare that well. Whereas I did it for androgynous faces, and I was perfect. Perfect, meaning I don't have apparently a bias against non-binary people. Whereas I have preconceived notions about whether women are professionally fit, for instance. So I do recommend that some of you to deepen your knowledge of unconscious bias and studies about women's characteristics. So with that, let's go to our fourth panelist, Pinar Özcan from Oxford. Yes, I know who you are now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, and my apologies for running in after it started. I came from a previous session. I literally ran over and almost tripped over, but
Okay, but you didn't. You're okay.
I'm okay. I'm
Good.
okay. All good. Thank you so much. So, and thank you for your comments just now. I think it's extremely important to think about how, in a sense, we're in a fintech conference. Everybody knows how biases that exist, for example, against women or against ethnic minorities, when you give them a loan versus don't give them a loan, how they can be amplified with AI, and you're very familiar with that. Just in the same way, if you make assumptions about women's and men's personality differences, we can amplify them without knowing, and I think that's extremely dangerous. I think that a lot of, and by the way, I heard no many times in my life as a girl and as a woman, as a young woman, and now I hear no all the time, and it's not. I think perhaps. There are other factors that are coming into play. But let me get back to the question. So I think that women, the way that what they bring to the workplace, I definitely want to agree with empathy. And that I'm going to look at maybe perhaps in two different ways. One of the things, so a couple of, I'm a researcher, but I work in the financial sector. So therefore, I work with industry leaders and try to understand their stories. And a few years earlier, I had this moment where I wondered what my purpose in life was. Okay, I teach people. That's great. I do research. That's great. But what do I want to be known for? And I realized that I have a platform that allows me to put a spotlight on women who are trying to make a difference in the world. And the way that some of these women that I met personally are making a difference is by attacking financial exclusion. So I built a series called Female Founders in Fintech. If you have a moment, please do go to it. Female Founders in Fintech. It's by Oxford University. And it's a series of stories and a series of female founders that are attacking financial exclusion from a particular perspective. So there's, for example, one that's looking at how teenagers, and particularly females, are being excluded from finances because, you don't have to deal with that. There's another one that looks at the financial exclusion of service workers, drivers and maids, and all these people who don't have enough knowledge to make investments with their money or to send it to their home safely, etc. So I won't tell you every single story, but what I see is that women that I've met and put in those stories are extremely motivated to address and solve societal problems. And I think that's very valuable. In a sense, sometimes looking at what the problem is in society is something that is not the focus in finance. And so I think that this empathy, this motivation to do the right thing is something that I've been really impressed by. And then the other side of the coin, so I've told you about females who are in fintech. But what about females who are excluded from fintech? I think that's the other side of the coin. And there, particularly, if you look at that website that I told you, in the next few days, there will be a news story, which is going to be from the founder of the most successful digital bank in the UK, which is Starling Bank. The founder is called Anne Bowden. And she talks about how females are excluded from getting a business loan. In the venture capital space, females are excluded from getting their Series A or Series B financing. Women are excluded from boardrooms. Women are excluded from top management positions in fintech. And this is, and you would think that in the UK, where they brag about giving a chance to women, more than perhaps other countries, this is very much a very severe problem. So I think overall, what we need to do, not just as females, and I'm very much in favor of the he for she movement, as a society, not just as females, but as a society, we need to look at these statistics And we need to applaud organizations that do better than the rest. But at the same time, we need to call out and say, you guys are not doing the right thing. Where are the women on your board? Where are the women that you gave financing to? And where are the women that you put in top positions? Because, and perhaps I'll conclude with one more statistic, which is that an average woman will lose about 30% of salary and 5 years from her career ladder by giving birth. And if you give birth to two children, like I did, then you know that number is even different. And so I think as long as we live in an unequal society where, and if you think of, I'm sure some of you are from have seen Central Europe, like Switzerland, Germany. These are developed countries, but children are expected to stay with their mother until 3-4 years old. Imagine what that does to someone's career. These are things that not just women should think about, but everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pinar. I think because you were coming from the other session, so I will allow myself to repeat two things that I said before in the scene setting. So, for instance, I gave the example of Germany as a place where, just in terms of structure of the workforce, indeed, women are at a disadvantage. I completely agree with you. And the second thing is I mentioned male champions. So the concept, and thank you for mentioning he for she. That's essentially the movement. So that's why we have these men here, because I think our male colleagues here are aware that this is also their fight, because a work world, a professional world, not to mention other aspects of our society, but also a professional world where the labor, in every sense, is more equally distributed. The praise is more equally earned and distributed, and where the balance with the personal life is achieved better. It also benefits them, and it allows them to have more time with their families, for instance, or to work in organizations that have more purpose and empathy. So I completely agree with you. We have just a little bit of time for the last round of this panel, which will be about mentoring and a little bit in the flavor of the last panel. So I will rely on your own personal experiences. Mariam already mentioned her own experiences, but I think from all of you, including you, Mariam, I want to hear about what you think about mentoring and networking, especially, either as a recipient or as a giver of mentorship. We will close with that, and then I will summarize the summit in a few minutes. So let's go to you,
Okay.
Necla.
Thank you. I believe this is a two-way story. As a mentor, you would like to share your experience, and experience is the knowledge. As Einstein said, experience is knowledge, and the rest is only information. I am lucky because I'm in Ankara-based exchange, and we have very young, vibrant team. Working together, that is very easy to mentor. But as I said, it's a two-way story. You are trying to share, and they are bringing their energy and new insights, and we should for sure make them engage with the process of decision making and designing and doing all the businesses. In addition to that, as I mentioned, we are in the agricultural sector. We are also trying to mentor our, including women farmers. We are giving more emphasis on these issues. Mentorship is important. Regarding my experience from the past panel, I was thinking who is my mentor about, or who is I'm following. I couldn't find someone. Again,
It was yourself.
Yeah,
again.
it's myself, because we are in Turkey. We can't see many women leaders around to admire and work, think about, and I just want to try my best while I'm doing. This is my motto. Let's say, doing your best and let the God give you, because the other is not working. You should ask. As a woman, what I can say, you can do your best. You should do your best, but also you should demand.
Yes.
Demanding is important. Nobody's, in this world at least, nobody's waiting for you to promote or others. And one thing Mariam mentioned, it resonates me like this. She said that new women are like princesses. New born people, women born to digital, and they are so much engaged in the social media. They are looking for positive interactions. That they like likes, they like many hearts and etc. That's why new generation is princess, but our generations, I don't think we weren't princess.
Yeah. No, there's also the generational aspect. So let's go to Seçil.
Okay. In shortly, I'll mention about our mentorship program within İşbank. We have a women leadership program for 3 years, and the managerial positions, the females in the managerial positions join this program, and the experienced ones give mentorship to less experienced ones. In this program, I think the thing very precious, according to me, is we have branches in the field and we have headquarters. So women in branches and in headquarters face very different problems and live very different experiences. So in this program, they come together and they find the opportunity to share their different experiences and learn from themselves. In that sense, I really find this program very beneficial for the women within the bank. And at the end of the program, I think a common wisdom is achieved and the empathy is developed.
Thank you. Mariam.
Yes, I would like to say I don't have unconscious bias.
Oh,
Actually,
no,
my
yeah,
experience,
sure,
everything that I said was based on experience. And I run a company, so it needs to make money and it needs to be systematic and efficient.
May I immediately come back to that? Absolutely, to make it clear, I didn't mean you have. I just said I'm constantly faced with the challenge of that fine line. Because on the one hand, you don't want to make assumptions because you don't want to be biased. On the other hand, if you don't really observe and rely on your essentially instincts, then you're blind to certain differences, maybe patterns of differences. So it's just a fine line, and it kind of gives me comfort to look at the unconscious bias stuff, not just that test. There's a lot more resources. So it's a challenge. I did like what you said, and I think you're absolutely right with the backgrounds. Thank you.
I like to say from a mentorship point of view, I have one advisor that I adore, and she is a bull as a woman. I look at her and she does not take, pardon the language, bullshit, and she stands her ground when she thinks she's right, and she does say and admits when she's wrong. And I think that is very important, because when we don't know something, we need to admit that we don't know. And I do think that from a mentorship point of view, it doesn't matter whether you have a woman or a man as a mentor. That's my actual view. Like, for example, founder of Monzo is an advisor of mine, and he was the person who mentored me to set up the company, right? So it depends on the type of mentorship you require. And that type you might have to get from a man, because men have been in business for a longer period of time, unfortunately, than women. If you look at the 60, 70-year-olds or 80-year-olds, majority will be men, actually, than women. And it's a sad reality. But now you are seeing, for example, in this generation, there are amazing women that you can follow. And you should follow them, and you should try to learn from them, because they know how to navigate the system as a woman. Men might tell you something, but women actually know how to navigate systems because they have reached a point in time where they have progressed, they have reached to the pinnacles, right, of power. And I do think that then you need to have different kinds of mentor for different parts of your life and your career. And this mentorship, you should try to gain from anyone. Don't be embarrassed to contact somebody on LinkedIn that you liked. Like, you saw their talk, you enjoyed it, you think you want to gain from their experience, contact them and see if they're willing to become your mentor. You will be surprised, lots of people will respond to you on LinkedIn, actually, when it comes to mentorship. When it comes to money, they won't, but when it comes to mentorship, they would.
Yeah, that's very true, and I think it's a very valid point. Actually, your role models and your mentors, which is different, can be both men and women on your journey as a woman. And I think it's all a discovery of yourself, indeed, because you're looking to certain qualities that you want to develop further and kind of equal. So let's finish with Pınar on this point, and then afterwards, please stay with us because I will do a 2-3 minute summary in order to conclude the summit. So please, Pınar, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll try to keep it very short. So, my mentor was my supervisor where I did the PhD, and being in that world. Now she's in her 70s, and being in that world, she was very much like a bull, as you said, and she raised me to be very tough because she believed that in a world still unfortunately run by men, you needed to be very tough. That was a very tough education. It was really very difficult. And on the one hand, I'm glad that I got that perspective. But on the other hand, I try to be a different kind of mentor now. And going back to Mariam's point about a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. I think you need to be a mentor that listens, that understands, and that responds to what that person exactly needs. And perhaps one thing that I'm urging everyone to be careful about, though, is that as we ask females to become champions for other females, we need to also respect how much time they can spend on this mentorship while still being amazing at their job. Because at Oxford, for example, I cannot tell you how many committees I'm in. Females, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who are female, champions in this, champions in that. I want to be in every single one of them. When do I do my job? I think this is in a world where there's still more men than women in organizations. What is being asked of us in the name of female championship can sometimes get in the way of performing and doing well. And so I think that fine balance needs to be in the minds of every top management team.
Yeah, thank you very much for this insight. I also agree with that. Now, before I ask you to applaud the panel, if I may just take a few minutes to summarize a few of the highlights from the whole summit. So the scene setting and the two panels. So first, I would hope that you would take from my presentation the main message that equality, in particular gender equality, creates value for the company, and it creates value for the company, it's good for you, but in order to get the most out of it, you need to get out of thinking of it as a compliance exercise or as something that you're doing just to please your stakeholders and create a good image of yourself. It has to be at the center of your strategy as a financial institution. So for those of you who are entrepreneurs, when you're setting up your businesses, or those of you climbing up or having climbed up to management positions in banks and other financial institutions, I really urge that point of view. Now, in the first panel of the day, we actually saw real entrepreneurs and also a leader in a very big organization, company in the world. And from their conversation, I took out that confidence and self-esteem are important, is important. You should work with people who lift you up as opposed to pulling you down. It sounds obvious, but is difficult to do. Sometimes you're cornered. Choose the organizations to which you are giving your most precious thing, which is your time, carefully. And we also heard their personal stories about how they pulled themselves up and established themselves. Put yourself up there, pick your battles, and absolutely do a great job, which resonates with what you said, Pinar, because if you're going to have to do an amazing job, you obviously need to have enough time. I personally also appreciated from the first panel the kind of practical insight that in order to really have a balance as a career, as a career woman, you need to think a bit practically about your personal choices, even in terms of child rearing. So these are realities. So second panel, this panel. We heard from agriculture, from banking, from deep tech, right? That's what it's called, and from academia. I've noted the female founders in Fintech. I'll check it out. So the terms that stick with me are being included and being excluded. So we have to think of the women who made it to these two panels and the women who didn't make it. The clients of these financial institutions who made it, who are receiving services from you or funding from you, and the women and men who didn't make it because the financial institutions didn't think sufficiently in terms of financial inclusion. I heard empathy, not being greedy, and although we may have different experiences and different perceptions about the average behavior of a woman and a man in the professional world, I think we do concur that they come from different experiences in society, and the best organization is one that makes space on a meritocratic basis for people of all backgrounds, including men and women. So, lastly, being a mentor and being a mentee, it takes time, but it's worth the journey. But it shouldn't be just the job of women. It should be the job of everyone. So in particular, the men in this crowd, I'm very proud to have so many of you here. Thank you for joining us in this conversation, in this discussion. Maybe next year we'll have a little bit more time also for a real discussion so that you can ask questions, but certainly feel free to join us now outside the room. And I think both men and women in this room can be considered as the champions of gender equality. Thanks very much for being here and listening until the end, and thanks to my panelists. Thank you.